Hey guys, Diane here, and today we're going to be talking about...
You wish you were me, you're weird. Today we're actually going to be doing a fantasy video. I'm going to be...
Not that type of fantasy.
I'm going to be trying to. Hey, I don't know, we might get more subscribers.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so today we are going to be talking about fantasy, so I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so we've talked about this in the past, but really I feel like Diane, all she reads is horror. That's really all she reads. Every now and then she'll throw some thrillers in there, but...
Horror thrillers.
Yeah, but like, you like fantasy books. And as you were doing the bookshelf tour, like I started noticing, like there's a lot of fantasy books.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books that like, sci-fi books that like you don't... Like watching that video was kind of like cringy for me because I was like, you don't know what these are? Like... Trash. So it was like, you know, outside of like The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, like you've read those and you've really liked them. And like earlier this year, you read the First Law trilogy, which is a fantasy.
Which I really loved.
Which is amazing. That was recommended by a friend of ours, and it was phenomenal, right?
Yeah,
so like, I feel like there's a lot of stories that maybe you're just not getting a chance or you're missing out on. So like the month of November, I felt like would be a good time for me to maybe make 5 recommendations. I have more than 5, and then you to choose at least 3 of them to try to read. And I think that the challenge with fantasy is a lot of them, like you have to invest a lot of time into, right? It's not just one book. There's like 20 books, right, that you have to read sometime. Like The Wheel of Time, I think you tried to start.
Yeah, I tried to, and it's kind of comforting at first. It's like, you know, world building, things like that. But then it's just overwhelming because, you have to know this person's basically whole family tree of each individual person. And then you have to like memorize it. And then there's maps and like, what do I need a map for?
Yeah, it's just world building, which I think is lost on you.
I'm just a simpleton. I'm just a simple girl that needs you to tell me what to read.
Well, here I am, and I'm here to save the day. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, go ahead.
So for the first on my list, I have this book, and this book has gotten a lot of hype. And actually, I have another friend that he was in the process of reading this book, and I've seen it everywhere. And so I felt like it'd probably be a good fantasy book. What I've heard about this book is the less you know, probably the better off you are going into it. So I've kind of took the synopsis off of the back of the book, and I'm not going to tell you everything on the synopsis, but it's called PIRANESI by SUSANNA CLARKE. That's right.
CLARKE.
Yeah. So what this book is about is it's only about 250 pages, and it's a standalone book, which I feel like is probably something that you would enjoy. But really, what it is it's about the main character. From what I can tell, their name is PIRANESI, and they live in this house.
I think I know what you're talking about.
There's an infinite amount of rooms within this house. Within this house, there's also corridors that are infinite. Also within this house, there's thousands upon thousands of statues, right? And each one is unique. It's different.
Okay, I do know what you're talking about, I think.
And also within this house, there's an ocean that lives within. And it's kind of like, the way I kind of like understood it was like this ocean like prevents PIRANESI from exploring and doing different things within this house. I could be wrong about that, but essentially this main character lives within this house, and I think once or twice a week, this person is visited by some character known as the Others, or the Other.
That sounds
and
pretty
he
good
comes in and he pretty much
That's all I need to know, I mean.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of the other books.
If you ask me.
Anyway, this is one of the options I'm presenting to you, okay?
I like that option. And actually, is the cover, it's like black and it has like a little,
it has like a fawn character on there.
Yeah.
And so like, I think my buddies probably finished the book by now, but I didn't get like the end result, but it's getting a lot of hype. A lot of people are talking about it.
It's been out. That book. I don't think it's new because I feel
it's been out for like 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I was
2 or
3
years.
I think I've seen the cover. So that one I might actually, 250 pages, I might have to do that one.
Yeah, so I felt like that would be a first good one.
Yeah.
And I'm actually kind of interested in that one as well.
Yeah, you could read it too. I know it'll take you a while. You gotta get the dictionary out.
The problem is I've read so many more books than you that I don't want to add another book to that.
That's what it is.
List of more books. All right, so for the next one that I got this recommendation from a friend, really one of my friends, his significant other. She is pretty big in the fantasy from what I've gathered, and she gave me a list of recommendations, and this one sounded something that I think you would like. This is I think it's a trilogy, and I don't think it's finished yet, but it's called The Children of Blood and Bone. And the cover of
I've
this
heard of
looks
that
really
book.
cool as well. So what I've gathered is it's about this girl. I don't know if she's young lady, young girl, whatever, but her family, I think it's a tribe or a group of people, they like dabble in magic and they can like bring back spirits or summon spirits or something like that.
Okay.
But essentially there's this king and he's decided, this ruthless king, he's decided, hey, no more magic, right? And so he's going through and just destroying people, killing people, like getting rid of, I guess, anyone that has magic or has anything to do with magic. So the main protagonist, she's on the run and she meets, I think, a princess that's also kind of on the run or something along the way. And they're being hunted by, I think it's the king's son. So the prince who's hunting them, and also they're going through lands and there's like vengeful spirits and there's different things that's hunting them in addition to the king that's also hunting them. And I thought that was pretty cool. I think this one's also got some hype behind it. All these books have.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen this cover. I feel like this is a pretty well-known.
Yeah, I think it's.
I don't really keep up with a whole lot of fantasy, so you guys might have to let us know in the comments. But I feel like I have seen, and that sounds pretty intriguing.
Yeah,
so
and I think the main protagonist, she also dabbles in magic, right? So like, it sounds like she could be a pretty strong magic.
I'm sure she's like
whatever,
a wizard,
but yeah.
S or whatever.
Yeah, so that was another one that I thought would be cool. That one's about 544 pages, but it's a trilogy, so it is a little bit longer. It might actually be more than a trilogy. I don't know. I think it's not finished, but.
Who does a book review and doesn't
anyway,
know
I'm
how
trying
long
to.
the pages are?
I'm trying to enlighten you.
To what?
Even though the first two I haven't read.
To nothing.
Okay, so but the next one I have read, and so the next one, this book has really a soft spot in my heart. Just because I'm very emotional, and this book is called Homeland by R.A.
Emotion?
Anger right now. All right. So this is Homeland by R.A. Salvatore, and so this book.
Oh, okay. I've heard you talk about this before.
I read this book when our daughter was first born, and my buddy, another one of my friends, he described this probably the most perfect way that I could think of. So what he said is like, this is a popcorn read. You read it and then you just want the next one. And this is also a series.
Okay.
There's a ton of these books. There's like 20 or 30 of them, but
That's
you
a good
can
way
stop.
to describe it.
So like I read the first one. That's exactly what happened. We had just had our firstborn.
Yeah, I remember you reading
and you would
it
sleep
all
all
the
night,
time.
and I would stay up I would raise this child that we had. And so while I would stay up all night raising our daughter while she slept all night,
breastfeeding
and doing all the
poor
things.
child.
I would read these books, and I started with the first one. I couldn't stop. I
do remember you reading.
But so really, what it is it follows this guy. I think his name's Drizzt or Dritz.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know how to pronounce it, but
I'm sure it's probably Dritz.
I think so. Well, I think it is because we were at Barnes & Noble's yesterday, and I heard we were in the fantasy section, someone was like, oh yeah, Dritz, I love this book. And I was like, I don't know if that's right or not, but so I said, hey you,
tell me what
tell me what that book is called. But anyway, so it follows this guy, and I think he's like an elf or something, the dark elf, whatever. But he is born into this society, and it's a matriarch society where pretty much if you're born as a male, it's not going to go well for you. And throughout him, he's pretty much trying to escape this matriarch. There's different, from what I remember, again, it's been a long time, but from what I remember, there's different families, and they all have like own different like powers or like aspects of. Gotcha. They live like underground. Yeah. So when he was born as a male, it kind of like marked him for death. So he's trying to get out. His mother's trying to kill him. It's pretty, from what I remember, it being very good. But the first one, and I think the second one, into maybe the third one, right? It's just about him kind of trying to get out. And I'll leave it there. It's like I said, it's a short read. I think this one is 343 pages, but it flies by, right?
I know it's not short to me.
Well, I think it's only like 10 hours on Audible. So it's,
okay.
It's one of those books where it's thicker, but it's not really when you look at the pages.
I think most of these, typically, if I do read fantasy, it's probably going to be on Audible. I mean, the PIRANESI.
Yeah, PIRANESI, yeah.
I could probably read a physical copy of that. 250 pages. I mean,
is that okay for you?
I read a lot of long books, but if it's like fantasy, sometimes I do get lost in the details. I'm like, okay, no one's died in like 30 pages.
As far as I know, none of these are like that. We're like, it's like Game of Thrones. We're like name after name after name after name. Everything is very intentional here.
Okay.
From what I remember, at least for this one. So the next one I have, this is the first book in another, I think there's 4 of them. The Faithful and the Fallen is the name of the series. So the first one's called Malice.
Oh, okay.
And this is probably one I don't know a whole lot about, but from what I've gathered, the second, third, fourth covers of these books look freaking amazing. But the first one looks kind of lame to me. It's just like, you'll see it. I'll have it to the right, but maybe I can find a better cover. I'll put it up. But Malice. So what it is like it's a young, like, warrior, young boy, right? And he wants to be a warrior. And I guess the times past, they would go to war, his colony or whatever, tribe, whatever they are, a group of people, they would go to war with these giants. And these, like, I guess creatures, worms, or whatever, I don't know, these giants, and they would go to war together and they'd battle, right? But pretty much they ended up extinguishing all these giants. But now it seems like they're starting to come back. But the land is just filled with like these ancient, like, I guess castles or ruins where these giants used to live. And so it seems like they're coming back. Giant creatures are starting to come back. So I think it's kind of like
cool.
It seemed very cool, kind of dark, bunch of battling going on. So I thought,
battles.
that'd be cool, right?
I do
Like
battles.
there's a good mixture of fantasy books where you need some battle, you need some things that are happening. But if it's all battle, after a while, you kind of get worn out.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, so this one I thought would be a very good book, and this has also got a ton of
so
hype.
far the list sounds surprisingly good.
Well, thank you. I spent a lot of time putting this list together.
5 minutes.
I perfected this list just for you.
You got this from everybody else. My friend, my buddy, told me about this book.
I'm actually referring to myself. I don't have any friends.
That's true. I'm his only friend.
All right, so let's go on to the next one. So the next one I had, this one, at the beginning we talked about a series that honestly, if out of all these books, if you haven't read anything and you wanted to start to read fantasy, honestly, the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's 3 books. What I'll say, I would give the first one a 9 out of 10, and then the next 2 a 10 out of 10. And this kind of continues with that.
Flawless,
yeah, this kind of continues with that. So this is actually, technically it's the 4th book in that series, but you can read the first 3 and stop. But this just kind of continues, and some of the characters in that series are in this as well. But this is kind of, I don't want to give too much because I didn't know much when I went into this book. I actually haven't finished it yet, but it's called Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. This is the 4th book, but it can also be a standalone book. So what the author did, I think that he did the first 3 books, then there's 3 standalone books that also tie into the world, and then there's another 3 books after the fact, or another trilogy. But it just continues in that world, this world building. But this, man, the intro of this book was so good. The first chapter of this book was freaking amazing. And then for me, it's kind of felt like an Ocean's 11, ish, where like we're gonna put this team together, and it's really a story about vengeance and really getting back. I don't want to go into too much detail, but man, it was so good. The beginning of this book is so freaking good, and then for me, it kind of was like, all right, we're kind of falling back into some tropes here. But from what I've heard, I haven't finished it again, but from what I heard from a friend who recommended the series to us, you just got to stick with it because it gets good. It gets real good, and you run along some friendly faces that you've seen in the past, which makes it very cool. But from what I've heard, if you read the standalone by itself, you're not going to be missing much. So the next one that I have, and this one, it actually blows my mind you haven't read this because you are a big Stephen King fan. And this is The Gunslinger.
I'm not as big of a Stephen King fan as I thought I was after I started this channel. Once I started this channel and I started talking about all the books I love and things like that, then I kind of started to realize that he's not as a perfect author as I originally thought. But no, I haven't read the Dark Tower series. I've been wanting to, but I just haven't.
The thing about Stephen King is he's been around for so long that, and he pushes out books so fast that I feel like maybe sometimes some of his newer stuff kind of lacks like the hunger I think he might have had when he was an author.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because I mean, I think the newest book that I really liked was probably The Outsiders, probably my favorite newer one.
A lot of people didn't like that book either.
I loved it, but his old stuff, like if I was growing up in that era, or if I was a younger person in that era reading that book for the first time, it would have blown my mind. That would have been amazing. But
the Gunslinger, yeah. So the Gunslinger, it's an older book now, but it's a series also.
I have been meaning to read that for so long, and I just haven't. So I might have to get to that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's short, very short. The first one I enjoyed tremendously. The
and
next
we own
two,
a copy of that,
I didn't really care for that much, but a lot of people love. The third one specifically, they love, and I just.
What about the movie?
No, let's just not. If you've seen the movie, don't. It has nothing to do with the series. Just freaking
I haven't seen
ignore
the movie
it. Don't
either.
watch the movie, and if you do,
Because you said it was bad.
it actually might be better if you watch the movie because then you're like, that's shit. And then you watch, and then you read the
You're
first.
like, that's amazing.
The first book, and you're like, yeah, it's really good. So it follows this character. His name's Roland, I think. It's been a while since I've read this, and he is chasing this guy called what the hell is his name? I think it's the Man in Black. I can't remember his name. It might be the Man in Black. I think it is the Man in Black.
The Dark Man or something?
Yeah, they're all, it's essentially Randall Flagg. I might have to cut that out. But
Spoiler.
a lot of the characters that you see in Stephen King's other books kind of make appearances, or they're
okay,
like,
that's cool.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So he's following this guy, and it's really Roland chasing this guy, trying to stop him. And he's going from town to town, and it's just a journey of him, and real weird stuff happens. And I really did enjoy this book. I feel like it's something that you would enjoy a lot.
Yeah, that you really liked it.
I think that was kind of it, and I think that was more than 6 books. There's a couple of other ones that I thought about recommending as well. So Brian Sanderson's always, everyone always talks about Brian Sanderson.
I tried one of those, what was it? We have
No, so the Mistborn you tried, but
I tried the Mistborn, but I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. Maybe I wasn't in the mood.
The one that I did try to think about doing was Warbreaker. So this is a standalone book. It's set in the same Mistborn. I think it's set in that same kind of world. But I'll recommend this one for you as well. I don't think you're going to want to read it, but we own it if you did. So what this one is, it's about, I think this is kind of more of a lighthearted read from what I've gathered, but pretty much it's about these 2 daughters essentially, and one's been kind of groomed to go out and marry this emperor or a king or something, right? So her whole life has been really trained to be that, I guess, that wife or spouse or whatever to this guy. And then there's another daughter, and she was not groomed at all. And essentially, what ends up happening is their fathers at a last minute seconds like, hey, you're not going to marry this guy. This other person is. And from what I've gathered, the person they're going to be married to is just a bad person.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, and so like it was like a big switcheroo, right? And so like I think for the way I gathered is the daughter that was like groomed to be this new wife is going to save their sister.
Oh, okay.
And then
so they're kind of switching roles.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
so
kind of cool.
Yeah. So a lot of people like it. I haven't read it, but it was another recommendation. I might have just wasted your time here, but
thanks for nothing. No, I'm just kidding.
out of those, so you agreed to 3 books.
I did agree to 3 books.
You heard it here.
Just because I agree to something and say I'm going to do it doesn't mean I have to.
It's on record. I don't know how you're going to get out of this. This is a binding agreement.
Don't do it, just like I do with everything else. No, just kidding. Okay, so I will read. I mean, all of these actually sound really good. So I will read PIRANESI.
I didn't recommend that book.
I'll definitely do, let's see, The Best Served Cold, because I love Joe Abercrombie, and that was just amazing. What was Malice about? Was that the creatures?
So Malice is about a young boy growing into become a warrior, and they're going to like fight like giants. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, all of those sound really good, but I think
all 5 or 6.
That's not what I meant.
So we should probably say that you're still going to read some horror books as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm reading a horror now, and I can't.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I mean, I have some that I'm actually in the middle of right now that I'm going to do a recent reads video. And, but yeah, I can't, or maybe I'll finish all 5 and then I'll just have a very, very dark December of reading. So we'll see how it goes. But I do think I will start with PIRANESI first. I think that's what I'm going to start with.
Yeah, that one seems pretty cool. I might tag along for that one.
No slow readers on this bus, okay?
Thanks. All right. Well, I think I'll end the video here since I've been taking a lot of verbal abuse today. If I have a black eye later on, you'll know why. The recommendations didn't go very well.
That book sucked. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so thank you, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments if you plan on reading along with us, or if you thought that these were really good recommendations, or if you have better recommendations.
Yeah, for real, because like I did a little bit, but I read more science fiction than I do fantasy. But
yeah, I think that's, and I'm not a fan of science fiction.
We're gonna have to change that.
I don't know if you can change it, because I'm just not a fan of, like, no, I don't really like science fiction. I like science.
Yeah, but if you have any good fantasy series that I just overlooked, put them down below.
I'm sure there's so many out there, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so hit that like and subscribe button, leave us some comments, and we'll see you next time.